Hi Will, and welcome to the Perth Peace Expo. We're delighted to have you join us today. Obviously not in person, but the next best thing. And I know you've been really busy, you've got a hectic schedule, so thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. Can you tell us where you are today and what you've been doing?
Yes, hi Alex, and hello everyone at the Perth Peace Expo. I'm really with you in spirit, and yeah, right now I'm in Massachusetts on Cape Cod, it's called, in the northeastern part of the United States. And my wife Madeline will be coming back tomorrow from Switzerland, where she's visiting her mother, and we're in the just starting up again an 11-month lecture tour. We took a short break. We'll be doing many events. We have over 60 events in the next 60 days here in North America. I'll show you around. We call it our rolling home. I don't know if you can really see, but this is the where we do. This is where we sit and how we live for the months we're on the road. This is the kitchen over here, and here we are back at the piano. So anyway, we're here now for another week before we jump into our schedule of doing an event basically every day throughout North America. So I'm just glad to be able to contribute to the vegan movement in some way.
That's great. I love the caravan and to have a piano in as well. That's
Yeah. I play that every day.
that's great. Yeah, I've heard you play when you came over to Perth before, and beautiful, beautiful. So this,
Thanks.
you're welcome. It's 2016 is the 10th anniversary of your book, The World Peace Diet. Congratulations, that's awesome. Why do you think the book is such a bestseller?
I think, the book has become a bestseller and translated into many languages, primarily because it goes into the big picture of our culture's routine mistreatment of animals and shows not just the devastating effects to our health and to the environment, of course to animals and wildlife, but also shows the bigger picture and deeper structure of our society so that we understand the anthropological dimension and sociological dimension, the devastation in economic and political terms, and also, in a sense, in the spiritual dimension or the psychological dimension, that being born into our herding society, it's really a society based and organized around confining animals, imprisoning them, enslaving them for food primarily, and what that does to us psychologically, internally, to the landscape of our consciousness. And so I think this has been just not articulated too much in our society, and now that people begin to see that, I think we can begin to make more progress in creating a society where peace and justice and freedom are actually possible for everyone.
Definitely. And the book it's certainly very inspiring and life-changing for many. I recommend everyone to read it. It's wonderful. So as you
Thank you.
ah,
Thanks.
you're welcome. As you know, we had a little bit of a social media competition where we asked our Expo followers to post a question that they would like to ask you. And we had a good response, and we've chosen 5 questions, and each of the 5 lucky winners, as it is, will receive a Expo goodie bag, but also, of course, you're going to answer their questions. So are you ready for number 1?
Okay, I go right ahead. Sure, absolutely.
Okay, so first question is from Instagrammer, the hero of the story, Kate. And she asks, how you avoid becoming overwhelmed and burnt out when the world can sometimes seem to be filled with so much cruelty and heartache.
Right. Okay. So, yeah, how do you overcome being burned out that's a big question when we see all the suffering, and I think it's a real problem for us, especially if we're vegans in our society who are sensitive to the suffering of animals, and people who are eating animals, which is 97% of the people, basically, or 8%, are resistant to even being aware of it at all, which I think makes it even more painful for us. So for me, I think it's very important to be active. I mean, I think there's really two things. One is to be active in the sense to take that sense I have of grief and sadness and pain because millions of animals are being tortured and killed continuously in societies all over the world and suffering terribly, and it's completely unnecessary. And so there's this sense of exasperation. I want to do something, I want to help. So I think it is important for us, for me, for example, to really do the best I can to take those feelings and turn them into some kind of meaningful action. And I think all of us can do something. Maybe it's writing, maybe it's teaching a cooking class, maybe it's doing some music or art or some videos or just sharing with people. But to share the message, share our feelings, share our insights, that I think takes it from the realm of just frustration to action. And that's number one. And then the second thing I would say also is to do internal action. And for me, the internal action, I guess, could best be summed up by the English word meditation. To take time on a regular basis to realize that what I am is not just an object, a thing, like a body that was born and will die, that what I am is consciousness. And consciousness is actually eternal. So to quiet the mind by some kind of meditation, whatever someone feels drawn to is fine. But it's basically having the mind in the present moment and relaxed and aware. And to practice this is something that's not encouraged in our society. Just like being aware of animal suffering is not encouraged, being vegan is not encouraged, meditation is also not encouraged because it actually frees us from the cultural program. All these thoughts that have been injected into us by our society are driving us to eat animal foods and to buy products that are devastating the environment and to believe all the official stories, the human superiority story, all these very negative, toxic stories. And so I found myself that by regularly just quieting the mind so that I can see that I'm not all those thoughts and I'm not all those feelings, that I am the space of the infinite sky of mind, essentially, within which these clouds appear, but in which they also disappear. And that, I think, opens up a doorway of being able to hold the space for this suffering without getting overwhelmed. But it's something that has to actually be done. We have to actually practice this. And then the third thing, actually, I would mention one more thing, and that is to really, I think, make an effort to also take time to see the beauty around us in nature and animals. There are a lot of animals suffering and being abused and imprisoned horribly by human beings for food and entertainment and products and clothing and testing. That's totally true, and we should never ignore it. We should really make an effort to be aware of that. But also I think it's important to be aware that there are also millions of animals who are celebrating their lives in nature, and they're all around us. There are birds. There are ants. I mean, there are spiders. Even if you live in the city, right? There's wildlife all around. And I think if we take time to honor and respect and celebrate and see, and plants and trees and the nature itself is a celebration, and that is, I think, always a source of inspiration. I think if we were somehow lost all by ourselves out on a planet somewhere far away, and there was no life around, and then some little ant came along, and we would just fall in love with this little ant, right? And this is a beautiful little being, and it has all kinds of, wow, he could be my friend, or a little fly, or, you know, so animals are all around us, and they're beautiful, really. They're magnificent, how they contribute, how they have capacities and abilities to contribute to the whole unfolding of life here. They all have a part to play, and I think for us as human beings is to find our part, which we've lost in many ways. So those are the three things I would recommend. Thanks.
Great, yeah, lovely answer. And question 2 follows on from Kate's first question, and this one is from Instagrammer Vegan Forever After, Emily, and she's looking for some tips on how to stay peaceful, spiritual, balanced and focused when you sometimes feel overcome by sadness.
Right, okay, so yeah, that's similar to the other question, but actually I think it's also important to realize that in many ways, veganism is a two-step process. It's not just a one-step. It's a two-step process, and the first step is the one that everybody is aware of. You know, that we talk about, like, okay, now I'm going vegan, so now I'm not going to take out my wallet and pay for meat, dairy products, or eggs, or wool, or silk, or leather, or fur, or products tested on animals, or zoos and circuses. Anything that harms and abuses animals, I'm going to try to not support that financially. And in place of that, I'm going to support plant-based alternatives to try to encourage people to be kind and compassionate and peaceful in our world. And that's beautiful. And then I think it's important to understand that that's a great thing to do, but it's not the end of it. That's the first step. And the second step is to make an effort to bring the mind into what veganism actually is, which is love, loving kindness, compassion, caring, mercy, tenderness, gentleness, freedom and liberation, and respect, not only for non-human animals, but also for human animals. So the second step is a much bigger, longer, more difficult step, actually. I mean, it's relatively easy to go vegan, even though a lot of people find it difficult. I mean, it is a challenge. I've been a vegan now, I think I'm in my 36th year here, and to me the real challenge and the beautiful opportunity also for growth is the second step, which I think is ongoing, because what it basically is telling us is that we cannot change another person, and the effort to try to change another person in many ways leads to frustration and conflict. And we try to change vegans, we try to change non-vegans, we're always trying to make them be some other way because we know better. And that just sets up a conflict. Nobody wants to be changed. So I think the vegan movement will really grow and become more effective as we, as vegans, mature psychologically and in our understanding of who we are, to work really on ourselves so that we're embodying what veganism is, which is kindness and respect for all beings. And so instead of trying to change other people who are not vegans, who are, sometimes I use the word pre-vegans, you know, they're not here yet, and not to feel that we have to somehow change them and make them like us, because then they're going to resist, but to simply just share our own story in a way that we're not judging, we're not comparing, we're not criticizing, we're not shaming, we're not blaming, we're not competing, because that kind of mentality is the mentality that's injected into us along with the meat and dairy and eggs. Eating meat, dairy, and eggs is eating not only foods of exploitation and oppression, but also attitudes of exploitation and oppression, and also of dualism and competition. So that's the kind of, that we can go vegan in the outer world, but we're still not vegan in the inner world, in the way we kind of see the world. We tend to be materialistic is the word I use. Herding is reducing beings to things. They just see a cow as beef, as a steak, and that's reducing them. But then we see someone who's not a vegan. Oh, they're not a vegan. Or we see another vegan we don't disagree with. Oh, they're wrong, and we do that same thing. We exclude them. We say, I don't care about them. I'm going to eat them, or they're wrong. So the whole idea is to realize that is also a wound that we have been inflicted with, not only eating animal foods, but also eating these attitudes, and then to work to heal those by consciously cultivating a sense of caring and compassion for people who have been wounded like we have been wounded. So we're all together, and we can heal. I think the best way to heal someone else is not to judge them, but to be loving and kind. And just say, when someone says something we don't like, well, I just like bacon, or plants have feelings too, so you eat your tomato and that's screaming, you just don't hear it, and I'm eating my, it's all the same. Instead of saying, don't you, that's ridiculous, and arguing, instead of that, to reflect and remember, at one point in my life I probably felt the same way, and to say that, yeah, I understand what you're saying, and I felt that way myself for years, and I'm so glad, I'm so grateful that I at some point discovered that the only reason I was eating animal foods was actually because I was just following orders that were injected into me by people who had my best interest, but they were toxic. Actually, eating animal foods, I discovered this is just not my best interest, and so now I'm not doing it, and it's fantastic. And then let go. Just learn to, I think, let go. Just plant our seed and let go, and not try to change someone. And I think we'll find as a movement and as individuals that not only will we be more effective, people will actually change more easily because they don't feel like we're trying to change them. They just feel that that's interesting. I think maybe I'll look at that. They'll probably change without even thinking of us. But there's I think a gift that we can give people by planting seeds. So the idea is we can't change people, but we can plant seeds. And the seeds we plant are our words, our gestures, the way we say things. I think in some ways is more important than what we're saying. If we say it with kindness, with respect, with cheer, in a cheerful way, in a way that we're intense. I mean, we're serious about this, but also we're understanding. And as we create a movement and we create films and we create books and we create blogs and we create a dialogue based around the issues, showing that we are happy and loving and healthy, and all these things, I think we'll feel our life is a celebration. So that's the basic thing. And the final thing I'll just say is to also remember that we're only on this planet for a few decades. It goes by very quickly. I'm suddenly, it just seems like yesterday I was in my 20s, and now today I'm in my 60s. Life goes by very quickly, and so we only have really a few days to be here, and we never know when we're going to leave. It could be any day. So we're all going to be at that point, and it's right around the corner very soon where we're leaving. So we're just here for a short time. And I think it's important to consciously cultivate a sense of gratitude for another precious day. Here I have another day, and it's an opportunity to learn, to grow, to share, to contribute, to awaken, to help liberation and justice and freedom on this earth. Wow, what a great thing. And to understand that this system of violence towards animals was already going for 10,000 years when we got here. It's obsolete, and so instead of fighting against it, we can build an alternative that is based on justice and freedom for all beings and render the other system obsolete. Just let it go. So we can link up with like-minded people and work together, and that's, again, something to celebrate, something to feel good about, and something to look forward to every day.
Yeah, I like that. That's definitely, loving kindness is definitely the way to go. And I think there's a quote, I'll probably get it wrong, but it's something about be the vegan you wished you'd met when you became a vegan.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's a beautiful saying. Yeah, be the vegan you wish you would have met when you were thinking about becoming a vegan, or when you weren't even aware of being a vegan, right? Great.
Okay, question 3. Getting through now. So the third question is from Maya, and she asks, in the 30 plus years that you have been vegan, did you ever doubt it for any reason? Maybe health issues or some sort of social impact?
That's a great question. Yeah, these are great questions. Thank you, everyone, for these questions. Did I ever doubt being a vegan? Yeah, that's a great question. Really, quite honestly, I have never doubted it. When I went vegan in 1980, I had already been a vegetarian for about 5 years. And I went vegetarian because I found myself in a community called The Farm in Tennessee, where there was 900 people basically living in eating a plant-based diet and not wearing leather. And it was a big hippie commune, and it was the biggest in the world actually at that time. And when I heard about the reasons, the two main reasons was, one, we're feeding most of the grain that we're growing on this earth to animals while people are starving. You can't argue with that. I mean, that is terrible. That's stupid. That's terrible. We're causing war and hunger and food shortages because we're feeding, because it's so unjust. We have 1 billion of our brothers and sisters are starving to death, hungry, and we're feeding this precious grain, corn and soy and alfalfa and so forth, to cows and pigs and chickens while people starve, and then we kill them, and we get sick from it, and it's destroying the ecosystems. I mean, what's there to doubt, And then when I learned about the cruelty and the abuse, and then I had this example of 900 people who were thriving on a plant-based diet, I mean, what's there to doubt? There's nothing to doubt at all. And then when I learned more 5 years later, it took me to really understand the abuse of dairy cows and hens. And then I learned more about how we're not little calves. We're not designed to take the mammary secretions of bovines. It's toxic to us. So I became a vegan in 1980, and my health has been fabulous. Really, I mean, I haven't been to a doctor in 40 years, and I just have lots of energy. I basically never get sick. Or very rarely, and so for me, and then the other thing is, I've been traveling with Madeline, giving probably over 200 lectures a year for the last 10 years, and we always have a Q&A. So I've heard every question possible, I'm sure, from people like, well, what about this, and what about that, and what about this, and I've heard hundreds of objections to veganism from people. Everything you can think of about, well, where do what about, a lot of times it's some kind of, blood type or health, where do you get some, there's various nutrients that people say you're not going to get, or children need to have this or whatever. But really, in my research, and in everything I've learned, I have never found one objection that held any water. I mean, they don't. There isn't. It's almost like, when someone says, well, do you ever doubt that it's right not to kill people? And no, I don't doubt that. I mean, it's not a good idea to kill people or steal from them or sexually abuse them. There aren't any. It's not a good idea. I mean, it's and the same thing with going vegan. I mean, it's the right thing to do. It's utterly, completely, solidly, absolutely the right thing to do for everyone. And it's well understood that there's no human beings who do not thrive on a plant-based diet. I mean, we're all basically the same. People love to say, oh, we're all different. Some people just need to eat meat or need to eat dairy. I mean, people who have researched this, MDs and nutritionists, don't agree with that. I mean, the basic idea is, we all have the basic physiology. There are no nutrients that are in animals that didn't come from plants. So we can eat the plants directly and get all the amino acids for proteins, all the essential fatty acids, all the carbohydrates, the minerals, the vitamins. Everything is available to us. So I don't think there's, from my point of view, in studying this and living as a vegan, for 36 years, I'm more enthusiastic than ever, and the food gets better. Everything gets better and better as we go along. Definitely. That's a great question.
Great answer as well. I'm sure that'll be inspiring to many that are listening. It's great. Our fourth question comes from Francesca, and she asks, do you think we will be alive to see the world go vegan?
Oh, wow. Do I think we will be alive to see the world go vegan? That's a trick question in a way, because if I say yes, then everybody thinks, oh, we're going to see the world go vegan. I guess I don't have to do anything. It's all going to happen. And if I say no, then everybody thinks, oh, it's not going to happen, and I guess I'll just give up and won't do anything. So I think, we live in the question. I don't know. I really don't know. I think there's a good possibility that we will be able to turn this ship around, because I think what we're talking about is reaching a critical mass, and no one knows what that critical mass is, but I think it's rapidly, I think the momentum is building rapidly. More and more people understand what veganism is. It's moving into the mainstream increasingly. We're seeing more and more that the eating animal foods is idiotic in terms of efficiency and environmental devastation and health and everything else. So I think you could make a good case that there is a good possibility that within the next 30 years we'll see a vegan world. And some people would say we have to. If we don't, we won't have a world for our children. And I actually say that in the World Peace Statute. There's a sub-chapter that's titled The Last Days of Eating Animals, which is basically saying either these are the last days of eating animals, no matter what. Either we stop voluntarily and all go vegan as a species, as humanity, or we will destroy the systems that we're depending on so terribly that there's no way we won't even be able to be living here anymore. The climate destabilization and everything else. So one way or the other, these are the last days of eating animals. But I think whether it's going to happen in our lifetimes, it's really, in some ways, it's up to us. In some ways, it may be up to the larger evolution of humanity. I just have this feeling that there is a quickening of consciousness, that human beings are just waking up and becoming more loving and aware and connected and sensitive, in spite of the terrible programming coming from the movies and the radio and the television and the mass media, and the politicians in many ways are really and the industries and the banks in many ways are really working hard to make more conflict and more toxic food and all this stuff. But it seems that humanity is evolving faster than that, and that we're just rising above the efforts that seem to be made by a tiny wealthy elite to control everything. And I think it's a beautiful thing. It's in a sense, it is a race. I think it was Orson Welles who said, H.G. Wells who said that history is a race between education and catastrophe. And I think that's true. It's really about education. If we can educate each other and ourselves and share this message effectively and live it, which is really the main way to do that, is to live it, then we can, I think, transform our society. It's really up to us to do it. That's all I'm going to say.
That's good, yeah. Okay, so our fifth and final question comes from Maggie. This is a good one. If you could invite anyone, past or present, to a vegan dinner party that you were hosting, who would it be and why?
So if I could invite anyone to a vegan dinner party that I am hosting, who would it be and why? I think if I could invite one person, that person today, anyway, this is what I think, would be Pope Francis, because I think I would love it. I mean, he, to me, is quite a remarkable person. I mean, he seems to have this genuine feeling of care for the earth and for animals and for people. And he's also the spiritual head of 2.2 million people on this earth. Sort of look to him on some level for guidance. But he's not vegan at all. I mean, he's just eating meat and dairy, and he says one thing, he does another thing. And I would love it, in a sense, if I was hosting a vegan dinner party and he could be there and I could, serve him food and talk to him and show him how delicious it is. And I understand that he's under enormous pressure from all the cardinals and bishops and everybody else that they're all eating meat and they would not want him to change. It would make them look bad. But on the other hand, I think he understands the urgency of the situation. And it would be such a powerful example to have someone of his stature on this earth going vegan and at least making an effort to understand the impact of animal agriculture, the devastating impact of animal agriculture, and to really use the office of the papacy to encourage people to move toward plant-based ways of living, and to encourage churches to make all of their the meals that they serve vegan, and when they're serving hungry people, to serve them vegan food, and these kinds of things would really, I think, contribute a lot. I think any social justice movement really has to have the backing of the religious establishments, and that hasn't happened yet. Too much with veganism and animal liberation, but it is happening. This is happening more and more, and we're seeing it happening. So that's the answer to that question. I think it would be great to have Pope Francis and maybe plant the seed so that he can go forth and actually act in a kind and loving way, which is what he's supposed to be doing as the Pope.
Yeah, great.
All right.
Great
Thank
reply.
you so much.
Great reply. And definitely he would be able to reach so many people. That would be amazing. Have you got his contact details?
Yeah. Okay. Right. It'd be nice if we could.
I know.
Yeah.
I just going to read to you what Maggie's reply was. She said it would be a difficult choice for her. It would be between Mayim Bialik, who's well known for the Big Bang Theory, because she would have a lot to put into the conversation. It would never run out with her vast knowledge on things from neuroscience to plant-based cooking, or Moby. She's a big fan of Moby.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, those are all good choices. I think Moby's already on board, which is great. And but I was in Rome last year, and I remember saying publicly to the press that I really think that Pope Francis, it would be great if he would walk his talk, and I think I still feel that would be a real help. Anything anybody can do to help connect, but I think it's all a matter of increasing the grassroots effort. That's the thing. As the grassroots effort builds and gets stronger and stronger, then it trickles up, and the people who are more visible, the famous celebrities and powerful people, will then begin also to reflect that. So to change the world, we have to change ourselves. We have to start at the grassroots level. That's why it's so important to do the work you're doing, to have this Peace Expo. This is really where the work is really done, is right at the grassroots. The national organizations and the big organizations in many ways are holding us back in a lot of ways. They're okay, but I think the real work that is meaningful happens at the grassroots level with people working together in communities with friends and colleagues and neighbors, building and educating and creating vegan restaurants and communities and meetups and bringing this message into churches and into schools and into workplaces and into local government and so forth. And that's really how the change has to happen. It has to happen with us. So keep up the great work you're doing, everybody. Much love to you, and thanks so much for the efforts you're making.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone who posted questions, and thank you so much, Will, for answering them all. That was lovely. Thank you. And people can contact you through your website. I believe you can join up on your emailing list.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, worldpeacediet.com has got our schedule, and we have a mailing list. We have our trainings that we do, the World Peace Diet Facilitator training, and looking forward to coming back to Perth again. It was a wonderful, very inspiring week I spent there a couple of years ago. Yeah, with you folks.
It'd be great to see you again. Yeah, we're looking forward to it. Thank you so much, and thank you from everyone in Perth, Western Australia here, to you and Madeline for all the great work you're doing. Thank you so much. It's wonderful.
Great. All right. Go forth and all the best, all the success. Thank you for the animals.
Thank you.